Okay, let's get right into hour number 3 on this Friday night, Thanksgiving 4-day weekend. The end of November 2009 already. 2010 will be here before you know it, guaranteed. Going over to Tokyo now to talk to Mr. Ben Fulford. Benjamin is here once a month with us. He is a member of a very interesting family out of Canada. He makes his home now in Tokyo. He was the Asia Pacific Bureau Chief for Forbes magazine for 8 years. Always has fascinating things to share with us. Let's find out if he's there.
Yeah, here I am.
Welcome back.
Yeah, nice to be back. A lot of good things happening finally.
Well, your phone sounds better. That's one good thing.
Yeah, a lot of people have been coming out this way to visit me, and there's been a lot of interesting discussions.
Did David Rockefeller come back?
Well, no, the CIA sent someone, the KGB sent someone, Mossad sent someone, the Yakuza sent someone.
Gee.
Things are coming to a head very quickly.
With
the gold price and the dollar plunging and the thing in Dubai, it's starting to leak out into the, corporate press. They just can't keep that story dead forever.
What's interesting about the Dubai story is that you and I knew it was happening. But all of a sudden the press discovers it, and it becomes big news, and the markets dive and all the rest of it. Tell us more about Dubai and why that's such a big deal. It's only 90 billion, allegedly, but we think it's much more than that.
Well, you got to remember that Dubai doesn't have oil, okay? And so you
got a lot of big buildings, though.
They have all this money to build this huge palm tree and all these hotels and stuff, right?
Right.
Well, apparently it was, Bush money, Carlyle money, dirty CIA money being laundered through there, and that's been cut off. The Arab kingdoms have also been negotiating with us, and basically they've agreed. It was still not final, but they've agreed not to block the free energy technology anymore, on the condition that at first to be limited to taking the salt out of seawater, so you can create enough fresh water to turn the deserts green.
Yep.
And then phase it in over, other areas in such a way that it doesn't cause social disruption. So that's why they pulled the plug on Dubai. They stopped, bailing them out anymore. At least that's my latest understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the Japanese are also going ahead now and building factories for this new technology.
Mm-hmm.
And the Pentagon guy who came over to see me, he talked about there's at least 6,000 patents in the U.S. that have been suppressed for so-called security reasons or whatever. In other words, the men in black and the elite wanted to keep it just for themselves and not have the average Joe use it. So they're going to start developing that into consumer products and things for Americans. So it'll be a great boom. We're just, in the final stages of draining the swamp, the Federal Reserve swamp, and all the swamp creatures will be flushed out soon. You can see it happening already. Tony Blair was not made an EU president, and you have Obama going everywhere and bowing because he's begging for money and he's not getting any. There are many ways to confirm that this whole nasty cabal is unraveling as we speak.
How much?
It's great that all that CO2 lie got exposed.
Well, I sure did. We put up a huge story about that. When that broke, whoever those hackers were that got those emails deserve the Nobel Prize.
Yeah, well, I think the Nobel Prize deserves to be put in the garbage and replaced with something else,
Well, I think it should be taken
its credibility with
taken away from Gore and given to those hackers. Yes, of course, lost its credibility. It's been exposed for the political sham and scam it is. You give one to Gore, you give one to Obama.
They give it to Obama like a year in advance.
Yeah, at least.
They were thinking that, here you have Obama naming himself as president of the UN Security Council. They thought they were going to have a world government, the fascist world government, with Obama as a puppet president, as a result of the crash they engineered in the U.S. market, the so-called housing crisis, but it blew up in their faces. So it's great. It's just wonderful to watch this happen. And believe me, I mean, those guys are scared now, and they should be.
Well, I'll tell you,
very, very bad stuff.
There's a lot going on, and I don't know if you're right or you're wrong. All I can do is watch and see and observe like everybody else. I hope you're right. If this doesn't come down and we don't have a massive change very soon, there won't be much left to save.
Yeah, well, it is true that when you're talking, we're talking like a sort of a warlike situation. It's a financial war. So you have one side, they say, well, we're going to be in Berlin by Christmas, and then the other side planning their Battle of the Bulge, right? So it's not over till it's over. But certainly, from my perspective, it's hard to see how they're going to squeeze their way out of this one.
Right. Just read a story where the conservative estimates have it that Stalin, during his tenure, liquidated close to 45 million human beings. 45 million during Stalin's rule
my own estimate is the United States has killed about 40 million people since the end of World War II.
Nothing would surprise me. We know that 6 million thereabouts have died in Iraq and Afghanistan since Bush 41 invaded there in 1990, whenever it was.
Yeah, if you add up the deaths from the Korean War, the Vietnam War, the Iraq massacre, and all that other stuff, you'll find that. And then, of course, they manufactured HIV and killed about 40 million people there.
25.
These are very, very evil people, and they're located in the armaments industry, in the pharmaceutical industry, at the top of governments, and the top of the big, money-centered banks.
Right.
We know who they are, and they know that they are in very, very deep trouble. I keep telling them that, the longer they fight and drag their heels, the worse it's going to be for them. There'll be no hope for a Truth and Reconciliation Committee. It'll be death penalty for all of them if they keep this up. And they really deserve the death by 1,000 cuts, the old Chinese penalty.
Well, how many people have they, through their actions, deliberate and otherwise, killed? Again, you can't estimate. It's impossible to project. You go all the way back to the last century, the beginning of that, and all the wars basically were financed by the same people, both sides, all the death, all the destruction. It's still going on today. Those people can be most easily seen in Iraq, the death toll there, and the just absolute leveling of that country. The war in Afghanistan, which has gone on for 8 years now. Yeah.
What they like to do is they have to have a long, unwinnable war so they can keep selling shoddy military equipment at inflated prices.
Isn't it a disgrace, Ben, how the American public has allowed this to go on for 8 years?
Well, you got to remember, they fell for a 100-year-long trap. These guys work very, very slowly.
Sure.
They took over the Fed, then they bought the textbook companies, then started buying all the pressure ships and taking over the newspapers and then bribing the politicians, And little by little, they take a decent, God-fearing country and they turn it into an evil Nazi killing machine, and their own people don't even know it. But it took them 100 years, and then they thought, okay, now we've got everything in place, we can now just come out in public and say, yes, we worship Lucifer, but it didn't work. It blew up in their faces. They still don't understand.
Well, listen, you're right, and you may be not as right as we'd like to see. Here, the program is still moving forward. It's moving forward right in our faces, and then this is the story I discussed in the first hour tonight with D.V. Kidd. WorldNet Daily has the story, and it's very interesting, to put it mildly. Shades of the University of Delaware's plan last year. Get this one. A program proposed at the University of Minnesota would result in required examinations of teacher candidates. Now, these are students who want to become teachers.
Right.
Teaching candidates. They're going to examine them in terms of white privilege as well as remedial re-education for those who hold the wrong views. This is mass mind control and incredible programming. I mean, this is amazing.
Favor re-education and reprogramming for Satan worshippers who think that they're superior. Now, these guys were planning to create a super race of ruling humans.
Well, they're still there. They're God's chosen, aren't they? Isn't that a super race?
Well, the thing is, it's like, this is where you have to understand that we're dealing with Nazis, okay? And there are a lot of Jewish Nazis and Zion-Nazis, but it's not a Jewish thing so much as a Nazi thing. This is the point I want to make very clear.
Don't even say Jewish. Say Zionists, because
Zionists,
Jews...
yeah, because the Jews have nothing to do with this.
Well, they have something to do with it, but it's Zionism. That's the codification of it.
Is a decent person.
But we know that. We don't have to keep apologizing for that. We know that.
I know. It's just that they use that as camouflage. They use these poor people
it's been
like that.
done. So that's one of Theodore Herzl's scams, was to get in and take over organized Jewry and make it a front for this whole thing, which is what they've done. And unfortunately, many Jews have bought into it, but that's